You're listening to the Footy First podcast on TSN 1050. Champions live here.
That's right, folks. We are back. McVicar, Niko Giantsopoulos here, rocking it out on a Saturday morning for you in the middle of January, because that's just kind of what we do, Niko. We're here every Saturday doing our thing, repping Canadian soccer. Literally today for me, I'm repping Canadian soccer.
I know, I love that jersey from you.
I'm very happy about it. It took me a while to find one, but I finally have one.
Who's on the back? Is it Laren?
It's Laren, yeah.
Oh. Good goal scorer.
I got to rep the boy. The guy played against the guy growing up. I mean, you got to rep the guys that you know, right?
Slotted a few past you, and now he's slotting a few past.
The funny thing, okay, I will admit, the funny thing was I played him probably 6 or 7 times across 4 years before we kind of split to go academy club. He never scored against my team, but he was always an elite scorer. So I always found that really, really odd. And I marked him once, so I can't take any credit. But it was just odd that he could never put one past our team, even though his team was very, very good.
Lockdown defense.
Yeah, that's what we'll call it.
Slapping the floor like Duke.
That's what we'll call it. Yes, I locked down Kyle Laren once. Maybe twice.
Speaking of doing the show in January, today was the very first day. All Canadians are familiar with this feeling. When you go to roll down your window at the Tim Hortons drive-thru and it's frozen and you can't do it. Today was the first time in this winter season that it's happened to me. That's when you know we're in the cold months of January.
I was terrified when I was coming in because we have to tap our cards to get in. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, I got to roll down my window. It went down no problem. So I got very lucky this time. Yeah.
I was surprised mine was still frozen. That was after a 15-minute drive. It still wasn't open.
Wow.
So,
yeah, not good.
It's cold out today.
It's cold. Also,
just off the top, I want to address my voice. It sounds like who knows what I was doing.
It doesn't sound that bad, buddy.
Okay.
Sounds a lot better than it was when we were walking in, I will say that.
Interesting, perfect. Yeah, well, I was out last night. I guess the music was loud. I must have been yelling at some people. So apologies for the voice.
Yeah, it's all good. Again, it doesn't actually sound that bad right now. I think it's warmed it up. It's fine. We're good to go. We got a lot to get into today. And by the way, folks, you are going to want to stay until the very end. We have some big news coming out at the end.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Don't leave. We got Atletico Ottawa team manager, former defender, former captain, Drew Beckie joining us in the second segment. That'll be in about 8 minutes' time. But I want to start off here, Niko. And we've talked a lot about the success of players getting transfers over to Europe. By the way, let's start off right here. Sabrina D'Angelo, huge move, is now going to Arsenal in the WSL. That's big for her. Great opportunity.
NWSL goalkeeper of the year, and now gets a move in the WSL out in England. Great opportunity for her, and it's just great to see Canadian internationals going abroad and playing at the highest level.
And not many bigger clubs in England than Arsenal, of all places. So
especially for the women's side.
Exactly. Right? Even the men's side, going to Arsenal is a big move, but the women's side, it's even bigger because that club is massive on the women's side. So she's going to get an opportunity to play at a top club, and she earned it. I mean, everyone didn't really know who she was maybe until last year. And then that video came out of when she found out she was going with the women's national team.
Yeah.
And everyone fell in love with her. She's earned the right to go over to Europe, so good for her. Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats to her. It'll be a bit of an adjustment, I'm sure, but I'm looking forward to how she can adapt to that. It's funny. She was basically in Steph's shadows all this time, and then this has really been her coming out party and has really taken her opportunity with both hands, no pun intended.
At both club and country, too. So it's very impressive. Speaking of impressive at club and country, Alistair Johnston.
Iron Man.
We talk about his incredible play for Canada. We talked about what he did for CF Montreal. How about his first match with his new club in the biggest derby in Scotland? And he just goes out and has a man-of-the-match performance for Celtic. I know they lost, so he didn't earn man of the match, but he was one of their best players the entire game. He made maybe one mistake the whole game. It was a thoroughly impressive performance, and he's looked really good. I think he's played 2 matches now. He's looked good across the board. I've been hearing things from Scotland, pundits, reading articles, saying that he has been the most impressive transfer this season for Celtic.
Because of his on-field stuff, or because of his interviews that he's given off the field?
Both.
I think he's getting more praise for how well he's been doing the media than how well he's been doing on the pitch.
He's very well spoken, so that doesn't shock me. But his play on the pitch has spoken for itself. He doesn't need to speak for it. So the bagged milk conversation that went around, it was just adding to his lore. He's becoming a fan favorite, and he hasn't even been there for a month. Incredible.
Yeah, well, he's got a huge personality, and then I think out in Europe, maybe players just aren't that open, maybe because the media is just so much more critical that when you grow up in that system, you get a bit exhausted with the media. You don't really want to give it time.
Especially at the big clubs, right?
Of course, they're berated by the media every single day. So I
it's
wonder
like playing
if
for the Leafs.
Exactly. Probably worse though. You got to think European soccer media is the worst kind of sports media in the world.
I don't know. Leafs media
is tough.
Leafs. Let me correct that. Leafs media might not be tough, but Leafs fandom is tough.
Yeah.
So I think it's harder. But that's a totally different conversation. We're getting off topic, but I've been really impressed with his transition because I wasn't sure how his first few games were going to go. Trying to get used to a new league, how the style plays out, and everything. I knew he was going to be fine eventually, but he walked into the Derby, the Old Firm, and looked incredible. Like, this is huge for him.
You said it's the biggest derby in Scotland. That's definitely true. I think people would argue this is the biggest derby in the world.
It's one of the top 5, but I knew it was number 1 in Scotland, so I said it that way.
And I love his tweet, how he said, "Baptism of fire, I wouldn't want it any other way." Again, you give a quote like that, I'm sure the Scottish fans are going to eat it up, and they're just going to love the guy. Good for him.
As long as you perform. If you say that and then don't perform, that doesn't look too good.
I know. I would eventually, he's going to have a game that's not as sharp. I wonder now how he can deal with the criticism out there.
Yeah.
And I personally believe that he's going to be able to deal with it very well.
Yeah.
He seems like someone that has a good head on his shoulders. Humble beginnings as well. I think
absolutely. When
when you come up the ranks and, you play League One, NCAA, MLS, and now you're off to Europe national team, I think there's a sense of humility that stays with you from the beginning.
Agreed.
But again, great opportunity. It's awesome to see him playing and having success. It's huge.
It's massive. And another guy who's having success right off the hop, Ishmael Kone, who I wasn't sure was going to get playing time at Watford right away, but due to injuries and a cup draw, he managed to get in, and he thoroughly impressed the manager. Did you read the quote after? He basically said that he was earning playing time in one game.
Wow.
And it was a cup game, and they ended up winning. He was in the starting lineup today, I believe, as well. Like, he is earning playing time that a lot of people may not have expected him to get right away.
Yeah, it's his home debut today, actually, as well.
Yeah.
So, in the championship, very high level. Again, I had some thoughts as well, similar to you. I wasn't 100% sure if he was going to jump in this Watford team and get significant minutes.
Well, it's a team battling for promotion, so a young guy, you just don't know if they're going to play.
Yeah, and that's it, young. Even if they're battling for promotion or not, the championship is a huge level.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure, but listen, it's early on. Let's not jump the gun, but to get a start
injuries
early on, listen, if he has a good performance today, that's the only way you could earn playing time at those levels.
Absolutely.
It's not given to you.
No,
especially when
not.
you're a foreigner.
And again, another guy who's, as we said, young. It's hard to earn that playing time at such a young age, but so far, the two boys went over there, and they've impressed for their new clubs. Can't wait to see what Sabrina is able to do with Arsenal as well. So lots of positives.
And then quickly before we go to break,
Yep.
Zader Watch. Obviously, fans of the show are going to be enjoying this segment.
Zats Watch.
Zats is in the starting lineup. They got a preseason game out in Turkey. He was in the starting lineup there. I think by the end of our show, the game will finish, and we'll give everyone an update on how that game's going.
Beautiful. Love it. On the other side, former captain of Atletico Ottawa, Drew Beckie, will join us. We'll talk to him about the emotion of last season, the emotion of the final itself, and his, I'll put it in air quotes, retirement, because he was retired for like 2 days before he had his new gig. We'll get into all that with him on the other side. You're listening to Footy First here on TSN 1050. Welcome back to Footy First here on TSN 1050. Nick McVicar, Niko Giantsopoulos holding it down for you on this Saturday. And Niko, we got a special guest on the phone. Former captain of Atletico Ottawa and now the new team manager of Atletico Ottawa. Drew Beckie joins us. Drew, how you doing this morning, man?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Can't complain. Can't complain at all. Really happy that you're here to talk about, I guess, the last few months of your life. We had you on in July, And since then, not only have you led Atletico Ottawa to first place in the regular season, you led them to the CPL final, but then you retired and have transitioned into a new role. Kind of a whirlwind few months for you there, eh?
Yeah, it's been a great whirlwind since we were in, obviously started in 2021 when we were in last place, and then to be able to kind of turn it around and then to decide to retire. It's been a transition, but it's one that I've really enjoyed.
I want to take you back to the CPL final. And you just talked about taking this team from last place in 2021 to first place in 2022. You get the opportunity to not only play in the final, but host it at TD Stadium. How incredible was that moment, like walking out to that incredible fans there and just being around that heading into the game?
Oh, it was very special, not just, personally, but, for the club, but just to see where Canadian soccer, I guess we want to see where it's going, but where it is at the moment is people decided to spend their money to come to a Canadian final. It was a beautiful night for it. It was a great stadium to host it. And, there's 15,000 people. There could have been 20,000. It's just, I bet we could have sold the TD place out, but they capped it for security reasons. But it's just really exciting where the CPL is going, where it has come from, and that's half the reason why I joined the project that Fernando proposed in 2021. It's just exciting to see how we can help grow the game, and a lot of the reason for the reason that I retired, it's that this is an opportunity that's not going to come around again, and I'm excited to see what happens in 5 or 10 years.
When the final whistle went, at that moment, did you know that was your final game as a professional player?
A little bit, Niko, a little bit. I had thought about it over the year, dealing with in the semifinal, I took a good hit on the face there, and I knew that I probably wasn't going to have a part in the final, but I was happy to be just on the field for that. And there's a few other things body-wise that they were, giving me flashes to say this is probably something that you need to think about. I always wanted to continue playing. I feel I still have the competitive attitude. I still have that ambition. But sometimes you have to see what's best for you, what's best for your family. And luckily the club was gracious enough to see, hey, give you two options. You can continue playing, or there's this new role that we need to fill. And as soon as I heard that, I felt in my guts that it was the right thing to do. And I'll miss playing, but I get to be around the guys still. I get to be around the club. I get to be around helping players improve, sign contracts, do all those things that I would have missed. So in a way, I'm still playing, if that makes sense. I'm just not on the field.
Surely you're going to jump in a couple small-sided games throughout the year and teach young boys, and maybe a nice hard tackle, nice Drew Beckie tackle that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if Carlos allows me, I might have to lay off the tackle so I don't get yelled at. I don't want to sign some of these players and then tackle them. That's not the best way to get to know them. But hopefully there'll be some opportunities to jump in a little bit.
And then kind of get into your new role now as team manager. What are your tasks? What are you in charge of? Break it down for people who just have no idea.
Yeah, well, these as you know, Niko, these roles behind the scenes are so important. And I don't just talk about me being important. That's not what I'm saying. It's these roles are important for players coming in, getting adapted to a new city per se, especially the international players. If you think about it, say you sign somebody from Cameroon or you sign somebody from France or wherever, maybe they've never been to Canada. They don't understand how the country works. They need a SIN number. They need OHIP. If you're in Ontario, they need to get sorted in their apartment. They need to go get bed sheets or all these things that they need to live. That's part of my role, is helping them settle, get into their apartment or find an apartment. But it's also on the other side of scouting is all of our scouting is done by Atletico Madrid. We have a great head of the academy there that does an amazing job with his team of identifying players and then pushing us over here in a WhatsApp group, or I have calls with him weekly to see where do we need to add certain players. We work with the CEO, Fernando Lopez, And we have an awesome person, JD Olenowski, who's our director of soccer operations. And he did a lot of those roles last year where he was helping players get settled, traveling on all the trips, making sure the food, was right, or the training sessions if we were playing at Pacific or wherever, right? And it just was a lot of work for him. So they've kind of added 2 people at that position. So he's now the director of soccer operations, and I do more of the team management role. And we kind of take, all the duties together. And every week we're meeting on every Monday and making sure we have things done for the week. And then every day I work alongside him, and we report to Fernando Lopez. But I'm also working with Carlos and his staff if they're having any issues with whatever, if there's food after training or training sessions. I then report to our CEO and make sure everything is going smooth. It is not something that I've done before, but always being around the game and in different countries and in different clubs, those people that were in that role were the ones that you were kind of you were closest to. If you had an issue with your paycheck, if you had an issue with, something leaking in your apartment, these kind of things. There's not something that I won't do or I won't help with. And I'm going to really enjoy that. I'm sure I'll have to learn a lot. I know I will, but it's an exciting role to be a part of.
So basically what you're saying is that you do everything.
If a player needs help, they call Drew.
Drew is Superman for Atletico Ottawa. Love it.
Do you think being a former player gives you an advantage to just, now you're in a new job. You want to succeed just like you want to succeed as a player. Do you think being a former player gives you an advantage in doing this job, that much better? Because you were a player, you know the needs that we want. You kind of know the standards that you want to keep as well. Talk about just being a former player.
That's exactly right, Niko. You said it there. Is that I'm trying to think of an example that it would resonate with the public here. Is that for example, when you land at the airport, having somebody come and pick you up and maybe having some food for you after a long day of travel or going through customs, and just I want the players to be able to focus 100% on playing all the time. And with how budgets work and all these things, there's little things you can tweak to say, do we need to spend money there where we could have it maybe pivot and put it into something like having, food ready for the guys before training and at breakfast, or having something ready for them after training, shakes done or something that they can take away with them to go back home and just focus on recovery and rest. You've been there, you know what it's like to not have to worry about something outside the game when you can just focus on, okay, it's Friday, I got to play tomorrow. What do I need to do on this Friday to be ready? Well, I don't have to do too much because the staff or the club got everything ready for me. Obviously, at the top level, those things are happening flawlessly. And on our level, we're trying to do everything we can with the budgets that we have to make sure that it's easy and ready to go so players can improve, players can be at their best at all times, because that's ultimately what you want. And what we want to succeed as a team is that they can just do that, 7 days out of the week. Making sure that, you're communicating with the players when possibly they have an off day, or, hey, tomorrow we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and having the schedule out to them as soon as possible is not always easy, with this league, and the travel, but being able to communicate and having things run really easy is my goal this year, and where they can just focus on being the best they can.
Halfway through the season, we're going to have to get you back on, and then we'll have to ask you who's the most vain player or the most difficult player on Ottawa.
Yes. Yes, we'll give some description without saying the name.
My vote's Nate.
Yeah, Nate's up there. He's a really tough. He's great. Nate, he's great.
In conversation with Atletico Ottawa team manager and former captain Drew Beckie. Drew, we talked about your new transition into the role of team manager, but did you have any time between the end of the season and getting into your new role that you were able to kind of reflect on everything that you had accomplished over the years?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, definitely. I didn't have these discussions with the staff until obviously right kind of before the announcement came out. I tried to sneak in my retirement on a Saturday, and I didn't alert the club. They knew that I was going to retire, but I didn't alert them that I was going to say something, and that's probably not the best way to do something. Fernando wasn't too happy about that, but the big picture is I'm not a huge player in the game. I'm not a huge player in the world, and I will never be a Ronaldo or Messi. That's not me, and never will be. So I felt that me announcing things wasn't a huge deal. I had a great career. I always had ambitions to go higher and to be at the highest level and to play for Canada for many years, but that wasn't my journey. That didn't happen, and that's okay. I had certain things that happened along the way that you can't control, and I had a great career. So when I was reflecting back on what my decision was going to be after this year, I just felt I couldn't continuously, day-to-day, compete at the highest level in the way that I wanted to, at a standard that I had expected of myself for several reasons, and things that had happened over the last 3 or 4 years with health issues that I felt I wasn't going to not let the team down, but I wasn't able to replicate certain performances anymore. And so I did a cost-benefit analysis. I like using that term because I'm glad I'm going to start using my brain here more than my body to say, how can I benefit the players? How can I benefit and stay in the game and start a new career, maybe at a younger age? I'd love to work for in Madrid at some point, or work for FIFA, or do something in the game in the front office side, to be a CEO of a club and help players move on from not just the CPL, but maybe the MLS or whatever it is. And so this was a time for me to say, okay, this is a start, and maybe I can go up from here. Whereas a player, I knew that I wasn't going to go play in a World Cup. I knew I wasn't going to go play in the Premier League, whatever it is. So this was a pretty easy decision for me, to be honest.
Fair enough. I guess we're going to see you running Canada soccer in a few years. That's the goal right now.
running the world.
I love the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Running the world by the sounds of it. Drew, you were active on Twitter recently, and you spoke about giving more opportunities now that you're in this new role to local players. Kind of speak on that and how you plan on putting that in action.
Yeah, I think anybody who's involved in the Canadian soccer community understands that our pathways are not the easiest. We have many different, I always look at it as a tree, right? And we have many different branches and stems that go everywhere. And there's not really a full-on, well, there's never existed in Ottawa a pathway really to the first team. With Ottawa Fury being a part of that team, I don't think that the club did a great job of connecting with everybody in a harmonic way to say, we're not trying to steal your players. We're trying to create a pathway, so opportunity for local players in Ottawa and Gatineau to have the opportunity to play first-team games in first-team minutes. I think we had one example of that being Antoine Copeland, but that wasn't the easiest thing how it happened. So now with the system that Madrid had in place, we want to connect with certain communities within Ottawa and certain clubs to say, this is the ultimate goal here. We want you to strive to play for Atletico Ottawa first, then go play in the Premier League, then go play in Europe, or then go play in the MLS or USL Championship, because this is tangible. It's right in front of you. You can do it. You can achieve it. And I haven't. I've been very since accepting this role. I've received thousands of messages. It feels like, hey, I want to play for Atletico Ottawa. Hey, from agents, which is great. I have no issue with that. And I'm glad that there's the ambition from local players and Canada-wide to want to play in Ottawa, to want to play in the CPL. It's just expanding massively. But that's not always easy. There's a political game. There's the clubs that have been in existence for a long time in Ottawa. It won't be an easy thing. And so what I was tweeting about was more, hey, how can we come together to show an ambitious project to say we want to have these players in. We want to identify these players and give them the professional training and show them what it takes to be a player. Because, Niko, you know very well that it's not easy to do it day in and day out. Sometimes when you're not making a lot of money and you're having to do other things or whatever it is, and the sacrifice that needs to be shown to say, okay, maybe my realistic view of what I thought these players were doing was lower than it really is. And I want to make sure it's not to scare people away, but to show respect, to say, this is what it takes every day. And so we have a lot of good ideas of how we're going to do that, but we'll see how it works out over this year and in the coming years.
And then how is the local talent in Ottawa, in your opinion?
I think we have some good players, especially in the local existing area right now. Plus Gatineau on the other side of the Ottawa River. There's a lot of great players. It's just being able to get them into a system of identification, being able to communicate with them to say, hey, we have a lot of ideas of how we want to implement getting you in and getting around the club. We're working on a few things. I can't say too much at the moment, but for right now, being able to get them in, show them how this training is, or getting them, without saying too much, just showing them what it takes to become a professional, and that they have a clear pathway through development, through certain games that we'll have. How can you be a part of this team and help get better? Especially from 15 to 20, right? Those are the age groups we're looking at, because of a lot of the rules that we have in the Canadian Premier League for underage players and U23s. It behooves us to do that, because we're a league that's growing, and we want to develop young players for the future. So it's an exciting time, and I'm really excited to be a part of that side of the club.
I'm sure Ottawa fans are dying to know if there's any updates on Ollie and Nate. Are you guys losing them? Are they coming back? How's that whole Mexican stint going?
Well, all I can say is that it's a really exciting training opportunity for them both to be, out in some great weather, great pitches, and to train within the Atletico family. But we'll see them back for 2023, and I'm excited to see how their development goes and hear about it, because it's an exciting opportunity, right, to train with great players at a great level. And in a different country. So we're excited to have them for 2023.
You talk about recruiting and bringing these players, and surely this connection now, if you guys can continue this with sending players in the offseason to a San Luis or even an Atletico Madrid, whatever it is, that's got to be a huge draw when recruiting players to come into your club, no?
Yeah, obviously that's definitely a good selling point with players. But, we don't want to lose the human aspect of speaking with players as well. If I'm trying to get Niko Giantsopoulos to Ottawa, I'm going to speak to Niko. I'm like, hey, obviously you've seen our product on the field, but we can offer X, Y, and Z. We're going to go to Madrid for preseason. Those are things that would sell you, right? And so there's an advantage there, and you have to take advantage of those things when talking with players to say, hey, we can get you better in these areas. We can provide this. You have this on top of your salary, all those things, right, that sell a club, because at the end of the day, there's little things that push you over the edge of playing for Pacific versus Ottawa or Halifax versus York, those type of things. And that's professional sport. That's professional soccer. And if we don't have competition within the CPL, that doesn't push clubs to get better. And that's what we're aiming to do, is to win all the time, right? We don't want to be bottom and have those struggles like we did in 2021 or even the birth of the club a few years back. So we have to push on from this point, and we have, I feel, the right people in the staff positions and hopefully on the field to do that.
Very well said. And then finally, your sister, Janine Beckie, obviously she did some work during the World Cup with TSN. Overall, what were your thoughts on how she did?
I was very impressed by her work ethic. Those are very long days. I've gotten to know Julian de Guzman very well over the, last 10 years. And, he was sending text messages, hey, Janine's really doing well. She's learning a lot. So that was really exciting to hear from his point of view. But I was very impressed by her analysis. She was always prepared. I can't say that I gave her many tips. I think when she did the Euros a couple of years back, she'd text to say, what did you think of X, Y, and Z? And maybe I'd help a little bit, and that's not a pat on the back to me, but she's really dove into analyzing the game. She's very well spoken. She's ambitious. She doesn't shy away from, saying controversial things or challenging the men on the panel. So I was really, really proud of her.
Yeah, you say very well spoken. I feel like all the women's national team players that I've had the chance to speak to, they're so articulate and they speak so well when they do interviews or even when you're just chatting to them on the street. They're so well spoken. Is media a thing that you're going to ever dive into at all?
Oh man, I don't know. We'll
You
see
love to talk.
We'll see. We'll see what comes about. I would love the opportunity to speak on, speaking about soccer, the thing we all love, right? But I'm focused on doing my job right now and helping if I can on and off the field, and just enjoying the game from this perspective, right? I've only seen it from on the field, and right, you're so focused individually on how you're going to be in that game and collectively as a team and being around the players. So now I'm going to have kind of an overview, a 50,000 feet overview of what we're doing as a club. And maybe, we'll see what happens in the future. But I'm focused on Atletico Ottawa right now. And if there's a chance to maybe speak on MLS games or European Cups in the future, then that would be a great opportunity.
We had about a month ago, we spoke about it, and we had a little pitch that we could present to you and Janine at one point. It was the show called The Beckies, where you talk about soccer and all that. So we want some of the royalties if that show comes about, but speak to us if you need ideas.
And we'll also give you opportunities to just jump back on here and talk soccer anytime that you want.
That's
always
that's
available.
No, love that. No, I'm always available for you guys, so thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, Drew, thank you so much for taking the time this morning to talk to us. It was very enlightening on your new role, so we wish you the best of luck moving forward, man.
I appreciate it, guys. Best of luck to you guys, and I'll see you all soon.
There we go. That's what we like to hear. Drew Beckie, former Atletico Ottawa captain, now new team manager. Niko, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, get into some more CPL signings and around-the-world signings, I guess. And don't forget, stay tuned for the last segment, folks. Big news coming out. All that and more here on Footy First. Welcome back to Footy First here on TSN 1050. Nick McVicar and Niko Giantsopoulos, York United keeper, holding it down for you. And Niko, great conversation there with Drew about his new role in helping with pretty much everything, but one of the things that he's been helping with is obviously player acquisition. Why don't we talk about some transfers that have happened over the last week? Because last week we did our off-season review for all 10 or 11 Canadian teams, right? And one of the teams that I was a little bit worried about, you weren't as worried about, was Vancouver, because they only had 3 players signed. I knew that there was others already signed, but nothing had been announced, so I didn't know what the team was going to look like. Well, they have 2 more, so we no longer have to worry. It's not February 1st. We're good, right?
Agreed.
They pick up 2 players, one of them being Khalil John Wentworth from Simcoe County Rovers here in Ontario League 1. I really like this pickup. And I know you might not know a ton about him personally. I called one of his games when I was doing play-by-play. This kid has talent. He can move the ball really well from that wing-back position. He's fast. He thinks really quickly. I like this pickup for Vancouver a lot.
Again, when these League One guys come into the CPL and they sign, obviously it's a big step up, but it's like, I always wonder if the League One guys are going to be a CPL club's starting whatever position they are.
Of course. But even if he's not the starter, that's a good piece to come off the bench to start the season, because he does have that speed. He does have that distribution ability, right? So I really like this. I think he has the ability to make that next step, whether it is as the starter or the secondary guy. It'll be interesting to see, but I like the pickup from Vancouver for that one.
Yeah, again, I like seeing all these League One inclusions to the CPL.
Yep. York with a big pickup as well this week. Brian Wright coming over from Atletico. Another good piece that's going to join a pretty good attacking group that you guys are putting together in York.
I agree. I mean, now you look at our front 3 options that we have at striker. We have Ozazi, we have Brian, and let's not forget about Austin Ricci.
Yep.
What he can do, what we saw in 2021 when he was playing on Valor, if he could come back and stay healthy, I think he's also going to be a huge piece for us. So those 3 strikers, again, I wouldn't want to go up against any of those guys. I've gone against Ricci. I've gone against Brian. Brian's actually slotted a decent amount of goals past me as well. So I'm happy they're now on my team. They're probably going to be slotting them against me in training, so that won't be too much fun. But
Make you better. It's fine.
Yeah, let's go with that. But I love the Brian signing.
Yeah, and the other thing that it adds, like you mentioned the 3 strikers. What about the wingers that you guys have going forward? And, I mean, how can we forget, one Mo Babuli, who's, a pretty good player in his own right. You guys have a good attacking force. It's just trying to build the back out to allow those attacking players to have the creativity that they have.
I agree. I'm sure when York was speaking to Brian, the draw to play with Mo, a striker connecting with a 10 like Mo, is a huge draw. And you just assume as a striker, you have to be thinking, like, if I'm playing with Mo, I'm going to be getting that many more chances to score.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a thought. Another signing that I think is significant in the league is Aiden Daniels signed a new deal for Halifax.
Yes.
I think he was going into his option year this year.
Yeah.
Whenever you're going into an option year or, it's your final year in your contract, it's like, okay, am I going to be a free agent at the end of the year? But I guess with Patrice coming in, they secured him to a new 2-year deal. So to lock up, in my opinion, a top CPL midfielder,
smart player.
I think that's a very smart business move for Halifax.
Yeah, I really like that. Halifax has done a little bit to try to build up this new squad with Patrice at the helm. I like the direction they're going. I still think they're a few pieces away from being uberly competitive. This was like a last place team, right? Like they were not great last year. So there's a lot of holes to fill, and they're slowly doing it. I like the direction that they're going. I still think I need more, and I think you'd agree with me, Niko. I still think there's more that they need to do, but they're making the right steps, which is what we want to see in an offseason, correct?
Exactly. Week by week, day by day, you're seeing more news coming in, and then you're starting to picture what that squad is going to be looking like. And Halifax fans, I mean, I've spoken to a few of them, actually, and they're excited how this team's building up. And they're also, I think the Halifax fans are most happy that they're finally able to pull out of this GTA region. Because before, it was tough to pull players out of GTA and move out to Halifax.
It's
they were mostly relying on the PLSQ.
Yeah.
But now if you have PLSQ and League One, it just increases the amount of talent you could pick from.
Absolutely. And it's a positive for sure to be able to spread talent across the country. People playing from all over, going to different places. Quickly, 2 MLS signings that I want to bring up. First, TFC signs Diamade from LAFC. Striker. I like the pick. He's a veteran MLS player, knows how to slot the ball. We've seen him slot the ball, ironically, I'm pretty sure, against TFC a lot.
That's probably why they signed him.
Exactly. It's just like you guys bringing in Wright. Oh,
100%. 100%. I mean, that's when you could get a real taste of if players good or not.
I want to take a shot at you. It's fine.
Unbreakable, Nick.
This kid is good. And I say kid, he's probably my age, but he's a good player. He has the veteran presence. I think he will link well with the 2 wingers that we have in the Italians. It's going to be a very good connection. My only concern is that means Canadian Io Akinola might not get as much playing time. But we also saw last year when Jesus Jimenez was playing out of his mind to start the season, Io still found ways to get time. So hopefully he can, or hopefully he can find time somewhere else, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I want him to be able to play because he is a Canadian national, and that's what we want to see.
100%. But yeah, I love this signing from TFC, and I think, again, over 5.5 is probably the odds I'd put for how many goals he's going to score this year.
Yeah. Another quick signing for Montreal. CF Montreal picks up 21-year-old midfielder Ilias Iliadis, dual citizen, Greek and Canadian, and he was playing at Panathinaikos' B squad, was signed 2 years ago to their squad. So that's some good competition in Greece. Was training with the first team in the offseason, obviously, was put on the B squad, and he comes in as a midfielder who can try to help rebuild out with the absence of Ishmael Kone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a young player. I'm really curious. Again, we always talk about how levels translate. The Greek, second tier, now moving into MLS. I wonder if he's going to be a significant player for Montreal or if he's more of a roster guy, because he is still young.
Yeah.
Players coming in, but I don't know if we want to get this on the other side. Players going out. Marco Bustos, it's finally announced. IFK Varnamo, hopefully he could come in and give the proper enunciation.
Varnamo.
Yeah, there you go. That sounded real Swedish of you, Nick. But he signs out there. He's left the CPL, now playing in top division in Sweden. He's going to be on the show next week. We're going to have tons of questions for him.
Absolutely, we will.
But yeah, a great move for him. And I love seeing when successful players in the CPL are able to move into Europe, into a higher level. Again, following the trend that Zat sets, and all the best to Marco, and hopefully he could represent the CPL well out there.
Yeah, and I want to get into this next week a little bit more because we'll have a little bit more time. The NWSL draft just happened this past week. I was very disappointed that there was only one Canadian, and it wasn't even like a single citizen Canadian. It was a dual American Canadian was drafted into the NWSL. Bugs me that there's no international rule, and that was the case. I want to get into that a little bit more next week when we have a little bit more time to break it down. We're going to take our last break here, Nico. On the other side, our big announcement. Woohoo! Big announcement coming. And we'll wrap up the show. You're listening to Footy First here on TSN 1050. Welcome back to Footy First here on TSN 1050. Nick McVicar, York United keeper Niko Giantsopoulos here. Before we get to our announcement, Nico, you wanted to give an update on Zats over in Europe?
Zader watch. Unfortunately, this is not the news I want to be, but they lost 5-0 in their preseason game. He did get the start. It's preseason, so it's hard to figure out if he got subbed out or not, but they're playing a Czech first division club. I'm going to try to say the name. Baník Ostrava. And, Czech first division. And, they lost 5-0. So not the best outing for them, but you never know preseason if they're playing, the U14s against this team. You never know.
Yeah.
But
you never really know what the situation is on a preseason match. So
we'll judge when season kicks off.
It is available on YouTube if you want to go back and watch the game, folks. We will post the link from that game.
Perfect. I like that.
Call it Zats Watch. But Nico, our big announcement. We got about 2 minutes to do this. Okay? We are doing a jersey giveaway. So you want to hold it up. York United gifted us a keeper kit with
one of one kit.
We don't even have one of these.
No.
Footy First on the back with the number 1. We are going to give this away on Twitter. And the way this works, you are going to have to follow us, like, retweet, and comment your favorite team as well as the hashtag FootyFirstKit.
Favorite Canadian
team.
club.
Favorite Canadian club, as well as the hashtag FootyFirstKit to be entered into a random draw, which we will do next week before the show. And we will announce the winner live on air next Saturday. Draw ends at midnight on Friday. If you want to be entered, please make sure you like, retweet, follow the account, and then comment your favorite club with the hashtag FootyFirstKit. Don't worry, all of this will be posted on our Twitter account just to make it a little easier for everybody.
Listeners right now are like trying to find a pen and paper, and they're like, okay, I got to do this, and
yes,
that. Or
worry.
No one's listening, and we're talking to no one.
Which is possible. But
the jersey is a beautiful TSN red.
Yeah.
Footy First on the back. Again, one of one. I've never seen a jersey like this. It's a beautiful jersey. I even wear this kit in the season. So great giveaway, and it's a great chance to spread the word.
Head over to Footy First Show on Twitter to enter the contest. We're going to put the contest availability out as soon as this show is done. We can't wait to hear more about it, folks. Let's see what you get. Who's going to win the one of one Footy First kit? That'll do it for us here this week. Make sure you tune in next week when we will have Marco Bustos on to talk about his new transfer. We appreciate you listening to all the Canadian soccer content. Go Man United. That's for Josh Palermo, who we had a conversation with him about this. Go Man United. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.